Hi and welcome to Miss Daisy Patterns. Today I'm going to be making a sleepy sock bunny. Right, so let's get to it. What you're going to need is a plain sock, a stripy sock, some matching threads, some black embroidery floss, craft filler, small circle of felt with the pattern linked below, some embellishments, pencil, Sharpie marker, chopstick and scissors, and a needle which is not displayed here. Right, so to start with, we're going to take our sock and the Sharpie marker, and we're going to have a needle and a thread it just to the side with a knot at the end. Now, turning your sock wrong side out, what you need to do is you need to get it as flat as possible, having the heel in the centre. See the way the heel is popped up just there? Then if you bend it over, fold it over, you'll need to sew across the heel because we want the sock to be absolutely flat both sides. So you're going to do a back stitch all the way along here. So very quickly a back stitch, and that just basically isolates the heel away from the rest of the sock. Right, snipping off the thread. Great. So that essentially is your sock completely flat on the front and the back. Right, now what we're going to do now is draw in the shape of the sleepy sock bunny. And using the Sharpie marker, we're going to fill in the ears first. So the ears are basically like this. So, as close as possible to that shape. So they're the ears. And then the actual head of the bunny is defined by the neck. And the neck is centered roughly along where you've stitched the heel. And then finally you fill in the legs. Right, next step then is to stitch everything in place. So again, needle, thread it, double, and put a knot at the end of it. And you're going to back stitch the ears into position. Back stitching all the way along. That's great. So that's the ears back stitched into position. And a couple of back stitches over each other just to secure, snipping off the thread. The next step we're going to do is we're going to stitch the neck into position. So you back stitch along here. Now if you back stitch a little bit down, what we need to do is we actually need to remove the excess fabric in the heel. So as you get here, you can do it either before this or at this point now. Just snip off that excess material and continue back stitching the neck into position, and then just repeat on the other side. Great. And then finally the legs. So you again back stitching the legs into position, and instead of going all the way around, what we're going to do is stitch right up until the center section, the top of the leg and the inside. Snip it off because you need to leave this section unsewn, and that's for turning the bunny right side out. So starting at the far side, back stitching the leg into position. So that's it then completed. Now the next thing to do is we need to trim off any of the excess material or any threads that are left out. Right, so if you cut in there around the ears and the legs, so you're just going to be removing all that excess fabric. Right, so down we go. Around the ears. And then around the neck. Right, so that's the neck, and then just finally around the legs. Snipping up the middle so that you go right up to the top. Great. Now that's where we're going to be turning it through. So what I do is I usually push the two ears through into the head first. It saves for being fidgety afterwards, and then push the entire head through to the center and then pull it all the way through. And then finally just pop the legs out. So that's the shape of the bunny completed. Now next step is to fill it with craft filler. Now you can either use your fingers here or you can use the chopstick. It depends on whichever you feel most comfortable with. And what you do then is you just literally start by filling the ears first. So you guide the craft filler up, and again you will use a lot of craft filler, as with any of these sock craft projects. Right, so filling until you get the shape exactly the way you want it. There we go, so that's that. And then just doing a whip stitch, you're going to close off the base that you've used to fill the rabbit. So whip stitch that together, and that's the body essentially finished. Great, so that's that. Right. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to create the dress for the rabbit, and what we're going to do is we're just going to take off the top just above the heel. Right, so you're taking this section off. Now the section on the left is for the dress, and the section on the right, that can actually be used for one of our other projects, which is the snuggle, the swaddled bunny actually, and I will link that also below. Right, now to put the dress on, you just need to stretch it a bit. I like to stretch the edge of the sock just so it has a little curl on it, and then you're going to pop that over the bunny's head and position. Great, so next step then is to fill in the arms. So again, using 2 strands of thread, doubled thread, knot at the end, going in from the back just below the top of the sock, and you're going to work a back stitch in and out down about 4 stripes or so. Right, so, and then I usually like to secure it for definite by working back up the arm again and putting a few back stitches in the back. And you just repeat that on the other side then. And that'll be your arms completed. Right, so. Right, so that's both arms done. So now we're moving on to the face. What you need to do is you need to transfer as close as possible the eyes and nose and mouth onto the piece of felt. Now I use a pencil for that, and then using 2 strands of the black embroidery thread floss, what you're going to do is you're going to work a back stitch. So you fill in the shape of the eye working a back stitch around the curve, and then working back onto yourself, fill in the eyelashes. Fill in the eyelashes. And then what I like to do to finish it off is on the back stitched curve, I like to just wrap the thread around the stitching. That kind of smooths out the back stitch. Right, and then you just repeat that on the second eye. And then working onto the nose. The nose is satin stitched in place, and just to create the outline of where I want to satin stitch, I just do 3 long stitches that creates the triangle. And then just fill that triangle in with a satin stitch. Again, the satin stitch, all the stitches in this are all linked below in the description box. And the pattern, again, is linked below, so you'll be able to download that off our website. So finally then you just need to fill in the face. And again, I like to do long stitch, wrap them together by sewing the thread around the stitches and gathering them up, and then back stitching the mouth into place. Now an idea here is that the front of the bunny's face could be sleeping, and you could make another one with the eyes open. Again on felt, put it on the other side of the bunny so you could have a sleepy bunny and a awake bunny. I didn't do this, but it's an idea that just popped into my head. Right, so you just snip off the thread. Right, so that's the face completed, and then you want to attach the face onto the bunny. And I do this using a whip stitch applique. So using the white thread, just whip stitch applique the felt, the face onto the bunny. Again, you can have a bit of fun here and you can make different faces. It doesn't have to be this specific one. Right, so that's that done. So that's it whip stitched on. So we're you could actually almost finish the project here if you wanted to, but what I did is I've just added on some little flowers onto the dress. I used a bit of glue for this, and onto the main one up here, again, just whip stitch appliquing that onto the top of the head, the little flower onto the top of the head. Again, this piece is completely optional. Right, so that is pretty much your Sleepy Sock Bunny finished.